What's up guys, my name is Ace, and in Call of Duty Vanguard, a lot of the Gunsmith has been leaked lately, including a ton of the attachments as well as images of the Gunsmith itself. And while I won't be sharing any of those images in today's video for obvious copyright reasons, I did want to talk about what I've seen with these leaks so far, and then share my opinion on how things are shaping up based on what I've seen. Now, I am going to leave links in the description below for all the sources of where I have seen these images. There's no guarantee they'll still be up, but I'll at least try to share those links for you guys so you can check these out for yourself. But a huge disclaimer here is, from these images that I've seen, it's clearly not a finished version of the Gunsmith. So all of this is subject to change before launch. I'm hoping some of it is actually inaccurate, because some of it definitely concerns me. But at the very least, I do think we'll at least get a bit of an indication of what we're going to be seeing when it comes to our Create a Class and the Gunsmith for Vanguard. So hopping right into it, the first thing I noticed with the Gunsmith is they're definitely following suit with Modern Warfare far more than Cold War. It's actually fairly obvious a lot of this is just straight up copied and pasted from Modern Warfare, and I think that's a good thing in a lot of ways. I think the Modern Warfare Gunsmith was very popular. A lot of people really liked it, at least for the most part. There were definitely some issues that people had with it, but overall, it seemed to be quite popular. But one of the first things I noticed here, and this is one of the things that I hope isn't going to make it to the final build, it looks like by default, we're going to have access to 10 attachments on our weapon at once, unlike the 5 attachments we had in Modern Warfare. Now, I know in the alpha, we did have access to upgrade our gun 10 times, so we could have 10 attachments in that, but I thought that was going to be limited to the Champion Hill mode. I didn't think that that would be how the actual Gunsmith works. And the reason that this concerns me is 10 attachments means there's very few trade-offs. The nice thing about only having 5 attachments on your gun at once in Modern Warfare is there were trade-offs. There were choices you had to make. You couldn't have it all. You had to make sacrifices in order to get the attachments that you actually wanted. But with 10 attachments available, this concerns me that people are just going to have like the perfect build that is amazing in every single way, without really having to think about trade-offs, without having to make difficult decisions while you're creating your setup, because you just have everything you want. Additionally, the more choices you have available, the more concerned I am about how they're going to properly balance everything. When you make things so complex like this, I really feel like this is going to leave a lot of room for balance issues with certain setups, certain combinations of attachments, and I think it's going to be harder to stay on top of keeping things balanced properly. Now, obviously, we haven't actually seen every little detail of this and how it's going to work. Perhaps they have factored this in and it's not actually going to be an issue. I just wanted to express the fact that I am concerned about this based on what I've seen so far. And I think I would have preferred a more simplistic system where you only have 3 or 5 attachments. So you have to make careful choices when it comes to your attachments rather than just throwing everything on that you want. Additionally, though, from one of the leakers in the community, the Ghost of Modern Warfare, who had many of these images on the Twitter account, and therefore obviously has a lot of information in the background when it comes to this, he mentioned that there will be no wildcards in the Gunsmith, so that's the same as Modern Warfare. There were no wildcards in that. We had those in Cold War. And at least within the context of the Gunsmith system and not a pick 10 system, I like the fact that there are no wildcards, because when you have a wildcard that allows you to choose like 2 perks from the same tier, for instance, this takes away from that idea of trade-offs, and I like trade-offs in a Create a Class system that force you to make meaningful choices and don't just give you everything that you want. So I'm fine with somebody having a really powerful perk if that means that they're sacrificing the ability to have a different really powerful perk that maybe supports a different playstyle but is in the exact same tier as the perk that they're using. In Cold War, for instance, I could use Flak Jacket and Task Mask at the same time, or I could use Ghost and Ninja at the same time, even though those pairs of perks were in the same tiers as each other. And I'd never really felt like I was making a meaningful trade-off or a meaningful choice for that, because it was just kind of the obvious choice for me, at least in public matches. Next up, we did have a couple perks that were leaked. One of them wasn't really leaked. We had access to this in the alpha. This was Double Time. However, the Ghost of Modern Warfare also mentioned that the Lightweight perk will be in the same tier as Double Time, in Tier 3. And that's really interesting. So it looks like you'll be able to choose Double Time, which mainly allows you to get from point A to point B faster since you have longer attack sprint, and it recovers that attack sprint faster, whereas Lightweight is probably going to be a bit better from just darting from one piece of cover to another as fast as possible. But now let's move on to the more weapon and attachment specific things that I noticed with these leaks. One big thing that I'm really happy to see is it looks like they are going to be taking the detailed weapon statistics from Cold War and bringing those into the more Modern Warfare style Gunsmith. So we'll be able to see the exact changes that each attachment has, instead of just a little plus or minus sign with your aim down sight time or your movement speed or something, but you don't know how much it's actually changing. We're going to be able to see those exact values in game, just like in Cold War, and this is great to see. This is a huge step forward, especially for having a really complex gunsmith system. It'll be nice for users to see exactly what they're doing to their gun, rather than just sort of guessing. But after that, I was fortunate enough to see every single attachment unlock currently for the STG-44, and it looks like the STG is going to have 71 weapon levels. So way more than Cold War, and I think more than Modern Warfare. I haven't played Modern Warfare in so long, I don't even know how many weapon levels they had. I know it was different depending on the gun. But there's 71 weapon levels with the STG-44, and there are well over 71 attachments that you can unlock for the STG. Because you'll earn at least one attachment per level, but in many cases you'll be earning 2 attachments on the same level. So yeah, looks like there's going to be a ton of attachments to choose from for each weapon. And I've seen every single one of them. Many of them are kind of what you'd expect, basically just sort of a copy-paste from Modern Warfare. So you've got your basic sort of barrels and grips and rear grips and stocks and muzzle attachments, all those kinds of things that you would come to expect. However, I did also notice that there's a bunch of new weapon perks, and it appears that we may actually have 2 different sections of weapon perks. And it appears we may be able to select 2 weapon perks at a time for a gun. Now, I don't know if it's going to be separate sections of weapon perks. You have one type of weapon perk and then a different type of weapon perk, and you can choose one from each, or you're just allowed to choose 2 of any weapon perk that you'd like. But there was an image that I've seen that did show off a weapon with 2 perks attached to it. And there's also a bunch of brand new weapon perks that we didn't see in Modern Warfare, and I don't know exactly what all of them do, but I did want to list the names of the weapon perks that stood out to me as being new and unique and weren't in Modern Warfare. Most of the same weapon perks in Modern Warfare appear to be returning though. But with this, we had one called Pressure, we had one called Reach, another one called Acrobatic, another one called Vital, and I wanted to point out with the one called Vital, it looked like there is a headshot indicator, but the gun is pointing at the chest, so it might be giving you headshot damage multipliers to the upper torso or something like that. Sounds like a bit of an interesting and potentially really powerful weapon perk. Then we've got Nerves of Steel, which we actually did see in the alpha, and then another one called On Hand, and the image for On Hand kind of looked like you'll be able to throw grenades while still keeping your gun up, like we can do in Cold War by default. Because in the alpha, at least with Vanguard, if you do want to throw a grenade without this weapon perk, it does require both of your hands to throw that. So yeah, those are some of the weapon perks that I noticed that sort of just stood out to me. Now I wanted to talk about the ammo types. And I'm not talking about the ammunition category that we saw in Modern Warfare that allowed you to choose like extended mags or in some cases a conversion to a different ammo type on the same gun. That looks like it's still going to be there exactly the same as it was in Modern Warfare. So like with the STG, you could actually use 22 long rifle apparently, which sounds ridiculous. I don't know why you'd want to do that. Or you could even use 8mm Mauser rounds in the STG-44. So looks like we're going to have quite a bit of conversions there. And I kind of like that. It really adds a lot of depth and complexity. So each gun is more like 3 unique guns with how you can build it with various ammo types like that. But on top of that standard ammunition section that we saw in Modern Warfare, we're going to have a new section, and these are more like ammo modifiers rather than different ammo types. And we did see these in the alpha. These are things like incendiary rounds or FMJ rounds or frangible rounds. We also see hollow point rounds in this, which presumably will deal more damage to the head if it follows suit from hollow point in previous games. We also see subsonic ammo that you can choose here, which I think is going to get rid of any sort of a tracer effect. And then finally, another one that I noticed here was just called lengthened, but it was in this ammo type category with the others. And when it comes to all of these different ammo types, I really hope that they are carefully balanced. I've already shared my opinion on this. I really wasn't a fan of the incendiary rounds and the FMJ or whatever those explosive type rounds were that we saw in the alpha. I wasn't a fan of those. I just felt like they increased a lot of frustration with the game, and they weren't really all that rewarding to use either. So I'm definitely a little bit nervous about these different ammo types, especially if we have the ability to choose 10 different attachments, so we're basically guaranteed to be choosing one of these ammo types. But of course, I am keeping an open mind. We'll have to wait and see how they ended up balancing these out once we get into the actual, like, regular multiplayer where we can create our own classes. But yeah, at least based on these leaks, it looks like we're going to have the most customization that we've ever seen for weapons when it comes to Call of Duty. And in some ways, this excites me. In other ways, this makes me a little bit nervous. Oh, and this just reminded me, there's one other thing I noticed, which was really cool, and I'm actually very excited for this thing. It looks like we're going to have the ability to choose different iron sights for our weapons. That's actually going to be an attachment, is a different style of iron sights. And this is really cool. This is great. I love the ability to customize your iron sights. A lot of times I really like a particular weapon, but the iron sights sort of ruin it for me, and I feel forced to use an optic on it, and that sort of takes away from the gun. With this, it looks like that we're going to have the ability to unlock different iron sights and choose to use different ones if we want to stick to iron sights. And I think that's a really cool idea that we have that as an attachment. But yeah, with that, that's pretty much all of the important things that I wanted to point out based on all of the Gunsmith leaks that I've seen. Like I said, it looks like we're going to have the most customization ever seen in Call of Duty when it comes to our weapons, which makes me a little bit excited, but at the same time, a bit nervous. At the end of the day, though, I'm keeping an open mind because we don't know how this is going to be implemented, how well it's going to work out. This could end up being really great, or it could end up having a lot of issues with it. We'll just have to wait and see. Of course, I'd like to hear in the comment section below, what are you guys thinking about the sounds of this so far? What do you think about the fact that this is going to be very similar to the Modern Warfare Gunsmith, but we're going to have the ability to choose up to 10 attachments on our gun at any given time? Are you more excited for this or more nervous about this? And then also, what do you think about the other things like 71 weapon levels, the ability to have different iron sights, and the different ammunition types that we can choose? Is this all sounding really good to you, or not so much? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.